Ready? Okay.
Let's just turn it down.
Well, I hope everyone can hear me. I can certainly hear myself in the background. It is now 3 o'clock and 30 seconds, according to the midpoint of all the time devices in the room. So we will commence with the meeting. So with this, I'll call the meeting to order. We'll take roll as we usually do by the Zoom login. If you are logged in under someone else for whatever reason, or using your phone, please alert Susanna so she can appropriately note your presence at the meeting. Next, I will announce the proxies and alternates. Akeem Harman for Peter Doran, Marwa Hassan for Theta Daniels Race, Matthew Vangel for Anessa Basaya, Isaac Fletcher for Terry Houston, Stephen Shipman for Julia Leday, Sonia Wiley for Cassandra Cheney, Jinwoo Choi for Sengdong Park, John Miles for Catherine Henninger, and William Dorler for Roger Lane. Are there any other proxies or alternates? If so, please reach out to Susanna via the chat function. Next, we'll have our guests introduce themselves. If you can see yourself in the picture box that shows the gallery view, please start from the top left, hopefully. I'm going out on a limb here. Hopefully we're all seeing the same thing. Start from the top left, and then if our guests will introduce themselves sort of as we would read. All right, Mr. Wooley, you're up first.
So good afternoon, I'm Craig Wooley. I am the Chief Information Officer here at LSU, and I've been here since August 5th.
All right, the next guest, let's see. I think it might be Senior Vice President Cassidy.
Hi, I'm Jane Cassidy, Senior Vice Provost, and I'll be speaking a little bit later in the meeting.
No, I think Ryan's next.
Ryan Landry, Office of Academic Affairs.
All right. Chief Human Resources Officer Jones.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Clay Jones. I'm Chief Human Resources Officer here at LSU, and I started at LSU on March 9th.
Professor Van Gemmert.
I'm Arend van Gemmert. I'm the Associate Dean for the College of Human Sciences and Education.
Our Provost.
Stacy Haney, Provost.
All right, turn the page down. All right, who's next? Okay, can you page up?
More?
All right, I don't
I think we got it.
Okay, I believe that's all of our guests. Thank you all very much for attending. We appreciate your presence and certainly your willingness to address the Faculty Senate for those of you presenting today. All right, next we'll address any, let's see, public comments, I think. Were there any public comments?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, moving right along. We will ask for a motion to accept the minutes from the August 31 meeting, then pending any minor grammatical or spelling or slight content errors or corrections. So may I have a motion to accept these minutes?
Second.
Okay, I think we have a first and a second from Professors Blanchard and Hassan. All right, all those in favor, please, can they indicate yes on the, please indicate yes on the participant tab. And that's the way we will vote for today. All right, thanks everyone. The President's report is rather lengthy, but I'll do my best to speed through it. I am known for 100 slides in 20 minutes. So off we go. First off, welcome to the autumn equinox, or the first official day of fall. It appears as though fall is making an appearance, so I can't be entirely sure given our recent weather challenges. Nonetheless, I'm glad to see a panel of cheerful faces and look forward to seeing everyone in person once again. All right, so I'm going to remove my mask for this presentation to assist those who rely on lip reading. We're also going to use closed captioning for the recording of this meeting, not in real time, unfortunately. We couldn't get that going ahead of the meeting, and hopefully my enunciation will carry through just a little bit better for the software. I do put forth, however, I have spent a good deal, in fact, most of my career behind a mask, and there has been no shortage of opportunities to embarrass myself with ludicrous logic or poorly thought phrasing that was clearly and unfortunately heard by all those in the room. So apparently I can communicate very effectively through a mask, and I think others can as well. I would also like to share some imagery in lieu of my previously highly choreographed mask demonstration. Can everyone see this?
1 second.
All right,
Hold on.
hang on. One moment.
Hidden under here. Hold on. Let me just move this for a sec.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, there we are. Okay, so if we just go to the next slide, hopefully everyone can see this. There you go. True to my roots and my home college. There you are. Yep, there you go. So hopefully you can see and appreciate that humans are not the only ones that face mask challenges, but as you can see by our canine and equine friends, it is possible to bugger up mask application despite the best efforts. But happily, we are demonstrating the correct application, notably over nostrils and mouth in both species, both of which have a considerably larger nose than the average human. All right, so I rarely find that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but nonetheless, hopefully this is helpful. I cannot take credit for this, however. I do fully acknowledge the USDA and the contributors who provided these images for those of us out in the field. I have not yet recruited my beloved old horse for a public health service announcement quite yet, but I'll sure to add that to the list of adventures for what is now our 30th year together. All right, so we'll start with the topics raised to the Board of Supervisors by the Council of Faculty Advisors at the September 11th meeting. For those of you who do not know of the Council of Faculty Advisors, it is described in Permanent Memorandum 24, aptly named Council of Faculty Advisors. Briefly, the LSU System Council of Faculty Advisors was created in accordance with a recommendation by the System Council of Chief Academic Officers to serve as a liaison between the LSU System Office and the faculties of campuses that comprise the system. Membership of the council includes all the members, again, of the system, including LSU, UNO, LSUS, LSUE, and so on. You can find all of us named in the permanent memorandum. The council presents the reports to the Board of Supervisors at each meeting, and a summary of the report is as follows. The faculty requested a consistent plan for annual cost of living raises. There's general frustration with the oft-repeated message that it is up to the faculty to increase enrollment and retention, as well as graduation rates to secure the very basic expectation of a healthy employee-employer relationship, and that is a cost of living increase each year. The faculty request appropriate recognition for extraordinary success in sharp contrast to the nationwide trends and concrete plans for annual and reasonable cost of living ranges. Side note, prior to delivery of the message above, CFO Lazell reported that LSU salaries are about 12% below the SEC average. Second side note, I have described this continuing situation as a bit like dangling an apple in front of a horse to incentivize or otherwise negotiate forward motion. I can tell you from my own experience, albeit a few years back, that the apple dangling technique only goes so far before the horse becomes wise and commences with an unceremonious and less than preferred dismount for the apple dangler. So there you are. The Baton Rouge Faculty Senate next presented to the board the Baton Rouge Faculty Senate passed Resolution 2303, pathway to censure removal at the April 2020 meeting. The faculty did request to the Board of Supervisors a meeting between the LSU Baton Rouge Faculty Senate President, the interim LSU President, and the Chair of the Board of Supervisors to devise a strategy and remove our LSU from censure by the most respected body of faculty governance in the nation. Side note, the administration reached out to act on this request to prestigious LSU faculty who have been instrumental in faculty governance and who are longstanding members of the AAP, Professors Kevin Cope and Brooks Elwood, have agreed to lead the discussions. I will serve as the LSU Baton Rouge Faculty Senate liaison. Next, presented to the Board of Supervisors during the statewide shutdown, LSU faculty were requested and provided documentation of cost incurred while unable to access laboratories and other workspaces and associated with instruction. And on a related matter, since the university has become self-insured, there have been numerous reports from faculty and colleges that claims are lost, severely delayed by years, or simply not addressed. So the faculty requested action on COVID-related and unrelated claims. To date, I have not received any information on plans to untangle the unintelligible procedural labyrinth that apparently dictates further action on these concerns. The COVID costs have certainly been raised innumerable times over the last 6 months. I often say I feel like a broken record or a CD, or I guess more progressively, an anthropomorphic robot stuck on repeat. The Fscc continues to advocate for relief for faculty-related expenses to continue LSU's multifaceted mission under some of the most demanding of circumstances. Next, it was shared with the Board of Supervisors that the LSU Baton Rouge Faculty Senate passed Resolution 2004, Gender Inequity and Health Insurance Benefits, at the August meeting. This was in response to the fact that neither LSU First or OGB, the Office of Group Benefits, provides maternity care for insured dependents. The faculty requested that this action item be given the highest priority in all future insurance negotiations and added to considerations by the LSU Diversity Roadmap Steering Committee. Side note, this discriminates against approximately 50% of insured dependents and may certainly contribute to substandard care for our most vulnerable. Louisiana is at the top of U.S. states for both maternal and infant mortality, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Another side note, a Board of Supervisors meeting was to be held yesterday to, quote, consider the pharmacy benefit manager for the LSU First Health Plan. However, it was canceled shortly before the start time of 4 p.m. I have requested that I be notified of the next planned meeting. I think this is probably good news. There is motion, but the trajectory of this said motion is shrouded in mystery at present. However, more on that shortly. Many thanks to the Benefits Committee who led the charge on getting that resolution passed. All right, next, the Faculty Senate Executive Committee has had a relatively, well, extraordinarily busy month. A few points that were discussed, parlayed, or otherwise bantered about in one form or another. You may have heard that Yale gave LSU a rather disappointing suffix grade consistent with our own grading system for COVID metrics reporting. The C- was a bit disconcerting since the University of Alabama, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, and even the University of Florida received a B+. Well, that's awkward. I can assure you that concerns from the faculty, ranging from an apparent campaign by a student contingent who wants to forego testing and or self-reporting to save the football season, to concerns about self-administration of COVID tests and mask non-compliance, have all been forwarded to the COE and the administration. My understanding is that a new dashboard has been in the works for some time and will become available soon. The Office of Research and Economic Development, Associate Provost, sorry if I buggered that up, Dr. Keena Arbuthnot, is scheduled to share the symptom tracker and potentially COVID reporting at our October meeting. So more on that to come. I also understand that there are links to videos on how to administer a COVID test on the website for COVID test scheduling. This is probably not the case for drop-ins. The National Guard does run the large test site on campus in the Alex box, and they have to be in uniform when on duty. This can be a bit disconcerting, given some rather controversial and potentially alarming publicity about members of the military recently. I plan to reach out to a high-ranking individual in the National Guard to address the Faculty Senate at some point in the future to share more information about the National Guard. All right, friends, it's really important to remember that we cannot entirely test or trace or track or isolate or disassociate our way to freedom from COVID. Despite the importance of all of these actions, the most reliable is to protect yourself, friends, students, colleagues, and family with viral vigilance, driven by a genuine vendetta against this unwelcome invisible intruder. Masks, hand washing, decontamination of shared surfaces, distances. It is our behaviors that will serve as the best protection. So please be a proud vigilante against the virus, not your colleagues, against the virus, and work on perfecting that soul-shattering stare that students claim comes naturally to professors for those who would behave in a manner that jeopardizes the health and safety of others. On another note, there is an enforcement team across campus, and I believe there is a way to reach out and report those hotspots, shall we say, of non-compliance. So please utilize this to alert LSU PD and the security agency who's been assigned to assist us with this. All right, next briefly, concerns continue with options for proctored exams. The demand for ProctorU likely far exceeds the capacity. Faculty are not comfortable with charging students for exams, and some assessments simply cannot be accomplished in a kitchen, hallway, den, or on a porch swing. Requests for other options have been put forth for the administration. There are some questions about phase 3 messaging. Specifically, what does it mean to experiential instruction, student workers, student scholars, field trips, outdoor labs, etc. We hope to hear more on this question shortly. Of course, now, clearly this is separate from the instructional paradigms and plans that are currently in place. So this refers to those, I don't want to call them extracurricular, but some extracurricular and experiential learning. Okay, faculty have requested that age discrimination, or ageism, be added to the considerations of the Committee on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. This is a very real problem in many, if not most, professions, including academia. Next, the Louisiana Legislature recently passed Bill number 117, affordable textbooks and open educational resources. All right, in part and in short, the bill requires that indication on the syllabi, or presumably, courses that utilize affordable educational resources, I believe that's $29 or less, and open educational resources. and clearly and openly communicate to the student body how to access these resources. And also to provide summary data to the Board of Regents about courses that exclusively use either AER or OER materials, among other points. I understand that the administration will be forming a task force for implementation. I believe this will be next fall, so more to come on that. All right, as you know, we recently lost several of our LSU community members, sadly, and PS 63 regarding this death of a student or employee provides for a procedure for which those lost are recognized by the administration. This has been raised to their attention, and I believe action is underway to appropriately follow the directives of PS 63. As you know, the interviews for the Senior Internationalization Officer have concluded. The Fscc participated in these interviews. Some outstanding candidates, and we look forward to the installment of this newest administrator. Similarly, the interviews for the Dean of Students have concluded. We hope to hear more about forward motion on that position shortly. Vice Provost and Dean James Spencer started his leadership of the graduate school, and we'll look forward to hearing from him in a future Faculty Senate meeting. The IT communication conundrum continues. Despite the best efforts and intentions of all involved, there appears to be some rather deep IT caverns in which faculty inexplicably find themselves over and over again. The Faculty Senate Executive Committee has addressed this multiple times over the years, and here we are again. I was rather shocked and dismayed to hear that the Uber Tech Committee, a brainchild of the Fscc, designed to be the super brain, not the super taxi, the super brain of all things LSU IT, was scheduled to meet only once per year. Oi, like a birthday. Nah, that won't work. That was not the plan. Suffice it to say, we'll be revisiting this once again. In the meantime, the Fscc has recommended that a university-wide IT town hall be held with options for question submission before, during, and after the meeting. More news, our brand new super enthusiastic CIO, Craig Woolley, is also on the case and has been on the move since day one. He is very approachable, certainly committed, and is here today to introduce himself and give us an idea of some future plans. PS 104-109 that describes the procedure for unsatisfactory faculty performance and dismissal procedures has been revised by an ad hoc committee led by SVP Jane Cassidy. 2 Fscc members, in addition to other faculty senators, served on the committee. SVP Cassidy is here today to go over the document that resulted from about a year of effort and get feedback from the faculty as well. Chief Human Resource Officer Clay Jones began his position at LSU just about the time we entered the COVID shutdown. He's a brave soul to be sure, and has been working nonstop on an endless assortment of HRM issues emanating from this rather dense and ever-changing virtual fog that has now become our daily routine. Mr. Jones is here today to share some highlights and address some questions. To be clear, we are always grateful for the administrative partnership with our Faculty Senate, or the administrative partnership with our Faculty Senate. While the going is not always smooth, I'm not convinced that it necessarily should be. Interactions, negotiations, and considerations with participation of diverse voices contribute to a satisfying, safe, and generally welcoming environment. As with all conversations, the FSC strives to be active, knowledgeable, and respectful, though a candid participant. As always, thank you for your service. I know that schedules are packed, days are long, frustrations are real, but still we come together, for now virtually, to share the voices of the faculty we represent. I'm sincerely grateful for your time, and again, as always, remain fierce for the faculty. With that, I'll conclude the President's report and take any questions. All right, well, moving along, hearing and seeing none, but don't feel free to reach out to me or Ms. Knoll at any point if you have questions. We'll also share that bill with you for your consideration. All right, so first up is none other than our Chief Information Officer, Craig Woolley, and I will exit the stage for you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I am really excited to be here, both excited to be at LSU and excited for the opportunity to address Faculty Senate. I'm going to have some opening comments, and then I want to make sure I leave the floor open for questions so I can answer any questions you have. First, I want to just give you an idea about my background. So I have spent a grand total of 33 years in higher education IT. I started at the University of South Florida, where I spent 27 years. My last position there was Assistant Vice President for IT. USF, if you aren't familiar with it, is a very large Research One public institution with over 47,000 students. So I am very comfortable in large Research One public institutions. That's where I spent most of my career, has been at USF. I then took an opportunity. I wanted to take my stab at being a CIO and move to Wright State University, which is another public research institution. They're not an R1 in Ohio. And I spent 5.5 years there and really enjoyed my time there, but could not resist the opportunity to come to LSU. It's just an exciting place, and I'm very happy to be here, and I look forward to working with all of you. I have spent my entire career supporting faculty in their IT endeavors. It is what I love to do. It is something I've been doing since literally I was a teenager. So I'm very comfortable with that. And I have my, I think strong opinions of how an IT department in higher ed should be supporting its faculty, both in their academic and just as importantly in their research mission. For me, my goal is both for myself and my department. I want to be viewed as an enabler for our employees to get their jobs done and not be viewed as a roadblock. So if there's times when IT is feeling, and I'm feeling like we're becoming a roadblock and a hindrance to a faculty member getting their research done or teaching their courses, we need to take a step back and double check that, because that should not be the case unless it's absolutely necessary. But I really am uneasy with being viewed as a roadblock. And so I believe in partnering with faculty and our customers, and we should have a true partnership. It should not be a top-down type thing to where I'm coming to Faculty Senate and telling you and letting you know, here's something we plan on implementing that's going to impact your research or your some of your academic processes. We should already be partnering on creating that together. I don't believe in surprising people with, here's something new you're going to have to deal with. I want to make sure that faculty have a voice and on things that are going to impact them ahead of time, as early in the process as possible. And I am definitely meeting with as many people as I can since August 5th, so that I can learn more about the culture here, learn more about where ITS is maybe succeeding in helping our customers and where we have room to improve. Some of the individuals I've met with every single dean one-on-one for at least 30 minutes. I think I've been to Faculty Senate Executive Committee twice, I believe. I've met with President Lopez a number of times in one-on-one. And I'm even starting to meet now with the local technology professionals that are supporting you in your colleges. All of this is because I am a stickler for delivering good customer service. I talk all the time here, and a lot of, I think my people in ITS are probably tired of hearing me talk about the customer experience and what is this going to do to the customer? What is this action we might be thinking of taking going to do to the customer? And if I'm uneasy with what that looks like, or if I feel like there has not been proper communication and advance notice, we've already paused on some things that I say, I don't like the way this is going. This is sounding like it's going to work, and it hasn't been communicated enough, and we've pulled the plug on some things and paused. So I do want you to have a positive experience dealing with us. And I want it to be where you want to come to us for help, where that is your first, I have an IT problem I want solved. I want you to want to come to us and not feel and maybe make that cringy face I sometimes see people make when I say you got to go to IT for help. I don't want it to be a bad experience. I want it to be a very positive one. And part of that is making sure I am measuring how effective we are in serving your needs and all of our customer needs. So although I know there is survey fatigue, it is important to me as a new CIO and new here that I have developed a short customer satisfaction survey that I want to send out to all employees so that I can get a baseline for where we're at now. What are we doing well, and where in each of your minds could we be improving? I want to then synthesize those results and come up with an action plan for some of the top items brought up and share them with the community as to here's what we're going to try to do to improve. It's hard for me to get proper feedback without surveying everyone. And the reason why I say that, and we'll talk some about faculty advisory committees and how vital that is for me. And this Uber Tech Committee, if it doesn't meet once a year, could be a great avenue for me. But the problem I see there is those are usually faculty members who are interested in IT and use IT all the time, maybe more comfortable with IT. So although it's a great place to go, you don't always measure and get a feel for how we're doing for everybody else who might not be as tech savvy. And so I would love that feedback from everyone if I can. Like I mentioned, I do want to, and I've been working with President Lopez on the best avenue for me to get faculty input early in a process. So if we're thinking of something that we think might be beneficial to you, and especially it might impact you, you should be involved. There should be some faculty representation early on in the process. I've been burned too many times when I was younger and foolisher in my career of making decisions in a vacuum that impacted the way faculty deliver instruction in classrooms, for example, only to find out that wasn't what faculty wanted. And the product was already installed. It was $1 million. We thought it was a great thing. We never asked faculty though. Again, I was younger. I'm wiser now, but that's why it's so important to me to get input up front. That is why you'll also see me as a fixture at your faculty senate meetings. I believe to give you the best support, I need to understand what some of your issues are. I want to understand what types of things you're working on so that I can better look for ways in which IT might be able to help. So I come to these meetings just because I want to learn and I'm interested in helping the faculty. I think with that, I want to pause and answer any questions and address any of the issues that you might have right now that I can answer.
All right, thank you very much. And welcome. And we hope we can certainly provide lots of feedback. We're generally quite good at that. All right, are there any questions or thoughts? Sage advice? You can raise your hand in the gallery function if you'd like, or just unmute yourself and have a go.
And if there's not, I'm going to bring up one more thing. I know it's been brought to my attention a number of times from President Lopez, some of the concerns around Zoom and captioning and Kaltura and other items. We are taking that very seriously. There has been a working group that has been meeting to come up with some potential solutions to address the concerns that were brought up. My plan of attack would be Sasha and I are in lockstep with this. So LSU Online and ITS are working collaboratively to look for solutions to some of the apparent problems that exist. the way that we would do it, and I'm hoping in the next week or two, maybe hopefully in the next week, we can propose some solutions through Faculty Senate to start with, of here's how we plan to address these problems, and here's what it would mean again to the faculty experience. Here's what might change or might not change. And it would then be presented to broader faculty saying, this is what we intend to do. This is how we're going to maybe tweak the way Zoom works or the way Kaltura works to address some of the problems that have been brought up. We don't believe they will create new issues, but we want to know that before we press the buttons. And so given the urgency of this request, I would like to make sure faculty are aware of, here's the buttons we're going to press in a week. Here's what it will mean to you. Here's how some step-by-steps on any issues it might cause, with an open period where faculty can then respond and say, here's a problem this will cause me. And it might be that we can work with you individually on that issue, but you will at least know what's coming and will be given a chance. It will be vetted in a short turnaround time, but at least it will be vetted so that you're not surprised. Hey, Zoom is acting a little differently for me. I was not notified of this. But that is our plan of attack for the list of questions and concerns that were brought up earlier.
Craig, question.
Go ahead.
The survey that you're going to send out, when is that happening? And is that will that be in form of an email to faculty?
Yeah, I think I want to work with the Provost office and academic affairs on the best avenue. But yeah, the intent would be, it would go to all faculty and staff. So it would go to all of our core customers. It wouldn't go to students just because it would be a large thing, but it would go to faculty and staff, and it would be a short survey that would go out, I'm hoping for early October.
Could it be a survey where you have some key questions, but you also give a field for people to again, write their suggestions?
Absolutely, yes.
And I was wondering, Mandy, maybe, you know how we receive a lot of emails and a lot of those just go into the trash before we read the whole thing. So I wonder if it's possible for the Senate members to alert their own departments that this survey is coming, to encourage them to actually take it.
Absolutely. Sure. No question.
And I can't tell you how important those responses are. In my past, we use those to make real change in the organization to better meet our customers' needs. So I read every single comment multiple times, and we then come up with, here's what some of the themes are of everybody saying the same thing. We might need to, and again, we publish the results, and we also publish what we're going to do and actions we'll take to address some of those top concerns.
Yeah, this sounds good.
All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment. I do have a question. Based on your most recent experience and your outreach, which I know has been outstanding, what are our greatest weaknesses and our greatest strengths?
So when you say our, you mean LSU in general?
Or LSU, IT.
LSU IT. Well, I think one thing, I do think communication needs to be improved, right? There has to be better lines of communication. And I think collaboration needs to be improved. So we do have 40 individual IT departments operating on the A&M campus right now. 41 if you include ITS. And what I have seen is it's been more of a top-down type relationship where ITS in our ivory tower comes up with what we think, again, well-intentioned. We think this is a great solution to something, and maybe those other 40 departments are notified, here's what's coming. Maybe they learn about it once they say, hey, stuff isn't working for us. Oh yeah, that's because we made a change. I'm going to change that model. That needs to be a collaboration. So I'm going to create, I've met with each dean. They're giving me a representative from each college IT department to serve on a committee where, again, we are working on solutions together. We are not doing a top-down approach. That way, they know your situation better than I do. They know the college's technology situation better. They can speak to some of that. That does not replace the faculty voice. That is not in lieu of faculty voice, but there could be more collaboration and more communication from ITS. And that's one of the glaring things. Obviously, the other weakness we have is we are running our student information system on a mainframe, and finding and keeping people who know how to program in COBOL, especially with higher ed experience, is a risk. So we will be working, and I want faculty included as much as you possibly can in, we've got to come up with a replacement and a new student information system, which will be a massive project, but one we have to undertake as soon as possible, because I don't like being on that mainframe for long term, mainly because of the people, and because to make a change takes an act of God, because it's all our own custom code. We have millions of lines of custom code. So if you want to change something, a lot of times it's a really big process, where in a commercial student information system, it wouldn't be nearly as difficult. So we've got to get there, and we've got to get there quickly, but we've got to do it together. The academic side has to lead this, and ITS has to be partners with you in doing it, but it's got to be done. That is my opinion.
All right, well, we certainly appreciate that. And yes, you have to keep the COBOL programmers wrapped in little bubble wrap up on the soft top shelf, right? Because, those who are familiar with COBOL are becoming few and far between. Though it is still an active language in some areas.
Yeah, it is.
The additional caveat is the extraordinary customization of our programs over the years makes it virtually impossible for anyone unfamiliar with the system to make any change.
Yes.
So we very, very much appreciate you coming to visit with us. Thank you very much. Best of luck, and please don't hesitate to reach out. I think you know my phone number, and you're always welcome to reach out to me, the Fscc, or the Senate.
And likewise, if there's any issues that come to your attention, like you've been great at doing, but any faculty Senate member, I'm available all the time. And I mean all the time, nights, weekends, whatever. If I need to be gotten a hold of, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Thank you.
I recorded it.
I'm not sure what is this. There's a question. Professor Cook, would you like to pose your question quickly?
Quickly, basically, a lot of the time we get a solution, it is not necessary for the right class size. Sometimes it's for a class size smaller than 20, but a lot of us teach class sizes greater than 100. Sometimes it's not for the scientific with all the formulas and everything we need to do. Other times it works on a PC, not an Apple. So part of what the faculty would like to see is sort of subdivisions of the solution. So if you have a class size of this in this discipline using this platform. So basically sort of expertise along those lines, because a lot of what we get is what works in a small class, and that just frustrates us. A lot of those options cannot work with 200, 300 students, especially read blanks and fill in questions for all the midterms we need to give.
No, that's a very good point. And one I will, again, it depends on, in this case, I'm assuming it's not just in classroom experience, but it's for most of the academic technologies you're referring to with this?
Yes, an example of this is basically I act as IT support for more than 100 students in my chemistry course for mastering what software plugins and everything they need and how to run Moodle and so forth. So this is something that I want the university and a lot of everybody to understand, the administration especially. This faculty are your boots on the ground, but the amount of pressure we're getting from students in this is unbelievable. I can be basically up till midnight answering emails, back up at 4 answering emails by students again. And I don't think that's a faculty's position to be IT.
No, and you and I think we talked about that earlier as to what kind of training do our students get when they get here. Because yes, in theory, they should be calling ITS and we should be helping them with those issues. You shouldn't have to be the front line of support for those things. And I'm not sure if that's happening just because they don't know, or is it happening because we're not open at that time, or is it happening because we haven't been able to help them? I hope it's not the latter or the last.
I don't, Craig, I know you and I have talked quite honestly, I'll vouch for Craig. I'll talk to him on the weekends, multiple strange hours. But basically the students don't, the first point of contact they have and the easiest point of contact is the professor, and that's it. They don't go looking for other options or anything. And then if we don't give them the evaluation, they're not happy. That evaluation's on us, and also going to higher levels sometimes. I mean, I have a question here for Master in Chemistry. I don't understand Adobe Flash, this comes up and I need a pin for Adobe. I'm not that expertise to answer you on all sorts of Adobe Flash questions. That's something that I would sort of like to have clarified to students as well, that there are other routes. And that if a faculty says, I'm not the person, we're not punished later down the road by our direct administration going, that's your job, which I've been told sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly am not the expert on some of these things, being the master of blowing up my own graphics card. I couldn't be trusted to answer such questions. So I think it's important that we do defer to others with far more expertise. I hope the CIO Woolley will take this under advisement and let us know how we can help.
Yep, I will do that.
All right. Thank you very much, and thanks for the questions. All right, next up, Senior Vice Provost Cassidy is here to update us on PS 109 now, and so I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Well, as I do as frequently as we can when we revise policies that have a direct impact on faculty, I like to come and make sure that you've had a briefing on that and that you've had an opportunity to provide input. So the policy that we are working on right now is PS 109. I'm sure that most of you understand this, but let me just give a tiny bit of context. We have PMs, which are permanent memorandum, and we have PSs, which are policy statements. The PMs deal with things that are system-wide. So if there's a policy that's in a PM, all campuses have got to abide by those, and in many cases, they have to develop policies on their campus that show how they're going to abide by that policy. So this is one of those policies. There is a PM, a permanent memorandum, it's PM 35, that all of the campuses in the LSU system are required to have a policy in place if a unit leader finds a tenured faculty member's work is unsatisfactory across multiple years. So how is our campus going to deal with that? We have a policy, PS 109, that we use for that. This is not a dismissal for cause one. This policy is really set up by which the unsatisfactory can be confirmed by faculty groups across campus. It's also to identify faculty members who are not doing satisfactory work, to develop an improvement plan for them with the hope to get them back on track so that it doesn't end up in a dismissal for cause. But that could be an end result for this if there's a faculty member who either chooses not to engage or cannot bring their work up to a satisfactory level. So, Suzanne, if you could switch to the next screen. Is it working?
It's just a little bit slow.
Okay. Well, I'll just keep talking then. We'll catch up. Yeah, we'll catch up. So we put together a committee for this, and it's made up of faculty and some administrators and HRM, people from HRM. What we tried to do is to pull together a group of people who represent all the different constituents who are part of this process to make sure that all the perspectives were heard as we were revising. Two of your Faculty Senate Executive Committee leaders were on it. Ken McMillan and Marwa Hassan both served on this. And I've seen it's gone away. That's right, it'll come back. And so my plan for today is to, so those people were involved. We sent the policy out for feedback. It's been considered by the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. We've gotten feedback from them. We've sent it out to the dean's offices, and they have responded. In fact, I happen to know there are some of you on the Faculty Senate where your deans and department chairs sent it to you for some feedback. So we've got quite a bit of good feedback that we're still pouring through to look at, and I will bring to the committee at our next meeting, which is next week. We've also shared it with Research and Economic Development because they have a place in faculty development, and my colleagues here in academic affairs. So my plan for today is to highlight the changes that we've made. I don't have enough time to take you through the entire policy. I actually am hoping that probably you don't know this policy very well because you do great work and there's no reason for you to know the ins and the outs of it. But what I want you to know is that the policy, the revisions that we've done to the policy have tweaked a few problems with it, a few things that are going to make it a little bit better. But by and large, this policy that we've had in place works well. And so the protocol that we follow really has not changed much in the revised version. What I'm going to do is to take you through highlight the differences between the one from before and the one that we're proposing. And then I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to send you the draft for you to look at and give you a couple of weeks to send any feedback that you want. I'll ask you to send those to Susanna Knoll and she will kind of collate them and get them to us, and we will send answers back to all of your questions so that you know that we've been thoughtful in that. So Susanna, can we move ahead to the next slide?
Jane, can I ask you a question?
Sure, Stephanie, yeah, go ahead.
You're probably receiving lots and lots and lots of suggestions. How do you possibly sort through all those and give feedback?
Well, I'll tell you, so we've been looking through them. There's a few of us that are reading them. A lot of them are the same. So I'm kind of grouping them together. There's not really a lot of different questions. They all center kind of around some of the same things. So I think it will be relatively easy to group those questions and provide one response.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so our expectations for the outcomes of this, why did we even decide to review this and to change it? The process is a very long process. So if you are a faculty member who has been struggling, it takes a long time to get to the point where there is some help that is required for a faculty member. We're trying to shorten that timeline so that faculty members who are struggling either with their research or their teaching, that help comes to them earlier. And part of it is just been a lack of clarity in the process. So first thing that we want to do is to clarify and simplify the process. The second thing is to encourage clear and appropriate feedback during the annual evaluation period. I'm going to spend some time on each of these in just a second. And then third is to provide help earlier and in a more supportive manner to faculty who need it. Okay, Suzanne, to the next one. So the first one, clarify and simplify the process. I know this might seem silly to you that one of those is to change the title, but as you can see, the current title for PS 109 is PM35 Campus Implementation Procedure. That is very unhelpful. And so if there is a faculty member who needs help or doesn't understand how this works, there is no way that they would find this policy. So we've changed the title to Unsatisfactory Job Performance and Performance Improvement of Tenured Faculty Members. So now it reflects what the content is of the policy. And yes, it is our implementation procedure for PM35, but who the heck knows what PM35 is? So anyway, the new title reflects the content of it. We've also reorganized the policy. We put it in chronological order. So what happens first, what happens second, what happens third. Before you had to jump around and it was very difficult to figure out what the procedure was. We removed redundant text. And part of the reason that that's good is that sometimes it would be said in one place and said slightly different in a different way in another place in the same policy. And so which is the right way? And so we tried to remove all of that. And we put it in our standard format for policies. And that begins with a set of definitions, subheadings, appendices at the end. So it's just, it reads much more easily, and it's much easier to implement too, we think. The language throughout has been modernized and standardized. So when we reviewed PS 36, we changed some of the titles, such as department chair, we put as unit leader. So we're using that across all of our policies now. We don't have a chancellor anymore, so we're using president. LSU refers to our campus. So we just standardized, used some of that standardized language, and again, added a definition section to the policy. All right, the second thing that we're trying to do is to encourage clear and helpful feedback during the evaluation process. So the colleges, when faculty members get evaluated annually, your department may have many ratings that you can give. They may have excellent, fair, good, okay, poor, whatever. They may have those. But from a university standpoint, the check is either, is it satisfactory or is it unsatisfactory as defined by PS 109? One of the things that we've noted over time with PS 109, which is when people are really in trouble because they've gotten an unsatisfactory, is that they've been probably not working to their potential for many years before they get that unsatisfactory. And I talked with a number of department chairs about why that is, that people wait so long before they give, they'll write in the language of the evaluation, you need to improve your research or you need to improve your teaching, but they don't, but there's no consequence of it. They still give a successful. And so from a faculty member standpoint, for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I haven't published anything. I keep getting a satisfactory. And now this year you decide to give me an unsatisfactory. What's the problem? I haven't been getting enough warning. So what we've decided to do is to recommend that we add a needs improvement to the university ratings in the annual reviews. So now if a faculty member is satisfactory, that's great. If it's early on and the department chair is starting to see that they're not as productive as they had been, or there's something wrong with the teaching, they can give a needs improvement, which will not count in this policy as putting them on a road to something that someday could be a dismissal. It's just giving them a warning that we don't think that your work meets expectations. And what we're hoping is that this will be an early shot for a faculty member to say, oh my gosh, I need a mentoring committee. Can you hook me up with somebody who could help me with this? It expresses serious concerns to the faculty member, and the policy now would allow no more than 2 consecutive needs improvements. If it came to a 3rd year that the faculty member was not meeting the responsibilities, then they would have to get an unsatisfactory at that point. But it would give them an opportunity so that they wouldn't be blindsided by the unsatisfactory. If this is approved, if this 109 is approved, we will go into, sorry, Susanna, can you go back one more? Just go back to that, right. So if 109 is approved, we will automatically update PS 36 to reflect this approved change. So PS 36 right now says satisfactory or unsatisfactory. We will revise that policy based on this approval automatically to add the needs improvement in there. Okay, now on to the next thing. The third thing is to provide help earlier and in a more supportive manner for people who need it. So all of the people that are being evaluated here who might get an unsatisfactory are all people who've met the bar for tenure here. So everybody has demonstrated capabilities or they wouldn't be where they are. This policy is only for faculty members who are tenured. And that means that we have voted them and given them that based on their record. So to get into a required mentorship program, you have to get an unsatisfactory. And so in the current policy 109, it says that you will get an improvement plan if you have 2 consecutive or 3 in 5 years unsatisfactory review. So if you got 2 in a row, you'd automatically go into this improvement plan process. If you got an unsatisfactory and then had a satisfactory, went back to an unsatisfactory, satisfactory, and then an unsatisfactory, it's 3. You need to have 3 within 5 years to get this going. What we found, those of us who deal with the faculty members who find themselves in this situation, is that this is a very long, drawn out process. So what we want to do is we want to get them to the place where they're required to do an improvement plan earlier. So our suggestion is to change this to 2 unsatisfactory reviews within a 5-year period. So it could be 2 consecutive, it could be 2 separated by 1 year. They could have 1 in year 1 and 1 in year 5, and then in that case it would be extended. But hopefully, if they're really struggling, they would get those 2 unsatisfactories fairly close together, and that would start the 109 process, which is a plan that has a peer review committee, a peer mentorship committee, an improvement plan that the faculty member themselves puts together to show how they're going to get themselves back on track. The other thing that's part of this, I'm not going to go through the entire process. You can look at that in the policy, but we did put a timeline to establish all of this, because in the previous one, in the policy that we're currently under, there is no real timeline. So this could go on forever and ever and ever. And I mean, it could take up to 10 years for somebody to finally either retire or be dismissed, unfortunately, in PS 109. So we're trying to get the people who are struggling to help faster. So Susanna, the last page. So the timeline, and this is not the full timeline, but I pulled out the most important pieces for you. Faculty members are evaluated on an annual basis, calendar year basis. You all know that. So when you were evaluated for year 2019, that evaluation of you was due in Faculty 360 by June 30th of 2020. It's a 6-month process to get your evaluation, to have your department chair evaluate you, to have the dean do it, to go back and forth to get feedback and everything. So this PS 109 will start on the June 30th, actually July 1. So June 30th is the deadline. On July 1, any faculty member who received an unsatisfactory, let's use this year as an example. Anybody who on July 1, 2020 had an unsatisfactory evaluation for 2019, they would be put into this beginning process for 109. During the first 30 days of the fall semester, that faculty member's case would be heard by a faculty advisory committee in the college, a peer group that would take a look at it. So this way a department chair can't blackball somebody that they just don't like. So it's looked at by this peer advisory committee. They have 30 days to look at it, to talk with the faculty member, to get any additional information they want, and to see whether they agree or disagree with the rating of unsatisfactory. The dean has 10 days after that gets to them. That from the advisory committee, it goes to the dean. The dean has 10 days. And then the provost has an advisory group, of which Stephen Shipman from Faculty Senate is one of the members of it, who looks at all of these and, again, puts a recommendation to the provost. Is this an unsatisfactory or not? Let's say that it is an unsatisfactory. It's been all the way through. It's been confirmed. The last 8 weeks of the semester, the faculty member has the opportunity to put together an improvement plan. So they will put together what am I going to do to get myself out of the rut that I'm in. Sometimes it's due to teaching, sometimes it's due to research, sometimes, rarely, but occasionally it is faculty members who are so uncollegial in their unit that it is hurting them and the rest of the unit. So how is a faculty member going to improve that such that there's a better chance that they will get a satisfactory the following year? They'll turn that plan in the last day of classes for the semester. The provost has 2 weeks to review it and request any changes or whatever. But by the last day of the semester of the year, that plan is approved, and the faculty member starting January, in this case, January 2021, would have their marching orders as to how they decided that they were going to improve. Generally, these plans are 2 years in length, so the faculty member has 2 years to improve. And throughout, they get mentorship. There's a mentoring committee that's put together, and there are check-ins with the dean and with the provost to make sure that things are headed in the right direction. So those are the big pieces that change. I would say that this timeline isn't really even a big change. It just wasn't spelled out before. These things happened in the same order. There just wasn't the timeline put forward for it. So at this time, I mean, I'm happy to take any questions, but for sure, we will send you a copy of this. And if you want to send me your questions or concerns, we will make sure that all of those get answered.
Okay, thank you, Senior Vice Provost Cassidy. This does represent, I know, a tremendous amount of work. The previous rendition, I guess, was, it was open to interpretation, and it took a lot of reading and backtracking and, again, interpretation. So I think this is important, a very important work, and we're very grateful for it. There is a question. If a faculty member finds themselves embroiled in some sort of, I don't know, office politics, how do they, obviously they require some sort of mentoring committee from among their colleagues, some who may or may not be overly enthusiastic to do it. So what are your thoughts on this? I mean, it could be a little bit of a chicken egg thing, right? And be a little bit self-defeating. Did the committee give some thought to how to overcome sort of, I don't know, general angst or challenges within the department itself?
Right. Well, I'd like you, that's a good section for you to read. There's a paragraph in there about choosing the mentoring committee, and the faculty member actually gets a say in that as to who's on that mentoring committee. So if there's someone or one or two, I mean, I don't know that we specify, I'd have to go back and look, but if there are people who are logical ones that should not be on the mentoring committee because the faculty member is not comfortable with that, they have the opportunity to say no to that person. There also is an opportunity to have somebody on the committee who's outside the department. So if the faculty member knows of somebody who, I mean, let's say it's a research issue and there's somebody outside the department who does similar research and could help mentor that. So I think we've left in place, that's a great question. I think we've left in place the opportunity for the department to provide help, but also for the faculty member to have some part in that selection process.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, but I was sort of alluding to the fact that in some cases it may be necessary to go outside the department.
Right, and that possibility is available in the policy.
Great. Are there any questions? And then again, this has been shared with the faculty senator. I think the plan was to have all suggestions sent to Ms. Knoll, right? She
Yes.
will collate them. Please share this with your faculty members. This is very important. Hopefully none of us have the opportunity to experience it, but nonetheless, it's an important part of process and procedure and protecting faculty. So let's make sure we do share it and get the feedback. Let us know if anything's unclear. I think it is a very clear document now and important and understandable, but nonetheless, if there's something specific to your college that this might not work entirely, we don't want to over customize it. We want to be careful of that. But at the same time, if there's something that's just really not going to fit, it's important to raise that issue now. Yes, Professor Shipman.
Andy, so when we bring this to our faculty, say if I bring this to my faculty, should I collect any suggestions they have and then send them all to Susanna on?
Yes, please. Yes. Any additional questions? All right, thank you very much for coming and presenting this. I think this has been very informative and helpful. It will be more helpful, additionally helpful to read the document. And then again, please get back to us. I'd say within the next 2 weeks with any questions that you have. So your next general faculty meeting or departmental meeting or etc. The next get together, please get questions and feedback.
Thank you.
All right. All right, next on our agenda as we're moving along, we do have a rather lengthy presentation on our bylaws, but that's up next, right after our Chief Human Resource Officer, Clay Jones. So I yield the floor, sir. Please mute.
Thank you, President Lopez. Glad to be here with each of you today. As I said earlier, I started March 9th here at LSU, and March 16th, we closed the door, and I got to learn a lot about federal leave laws and COVID and all the different types of Louisiana emergency pay and emergency leave laws very quickly on the fly. A lot of nights, a lot of weekends, and a lot of fun. So anyway, I'm much more enjoying the past few weeks as at least there's somewhat a sense of normalcy. I've spent my entire life has been across the state line in the state of Mississippi. 7 years at the University of Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg, which is only about 2.5 hours from here and where I'm originally from. And then I spent the last 23 years at Ole Miss, University of Mississippi, whatever you prefer to call it. 23 years there as Chief Human Resource Officer and oversaw a few other smaller things in addition to that while I was there. So I was very excited, honored, thrilled to get to come here, and hope that we get some normalcy soon so we can all enjoy each other and work together. One of the things that I would like to commend you for, and it's been mentioned earlier, and I've actually talked about this in my interview when people would say, why are you interested in coming here? And of course, there were many reasons, but one of the things that I had researched and studied was that I really believed LSU was on the rise. And unfortunately, Ole Miss had a few years of tough enrollment and tough state budgets that a lot of institutions have experienced, but felt like things were a little stagnant there. And so when I see the enrollment numbers that I know many of you had a portion and a part of doing along with our outstanding admissions office and enrollment management group, that is big time exciting, especially when you think about how many schools are struggling and having decrease in enrollment and things of those sorts. So that's outstanding. I know a lot of you had a lot to do with that, so I pat you on the back and commend you for that. When I interviewed and started considering coming here, I talked about 2 or 3 things, and I hope that I can make you believe that I'm honoring those 2 or 3 things in my service here to LSU. And unfortunately, there are some similarities between some of the things Craig said, but honestly, those are things that I absolutely championed when I was here as well. I believe that my team should absolutely push first customer service. And that means to you, to staff, to anyone that needs us. And, I pledge to you that if you find any issues with our deliverance of customer service, then I want to know about it, and we will work our best and our hardest to do our best to make that a better experience for you as you deal with this office. The second thing that I like to talk a lot about is transparency. And, transparency can go one of 2 ways, but it certainly means that I want to be as honest as I can with you. Now, when I say it can go a different way, that means sometimes we may not agree on everything. And I hope that you can appreciate, even if we don't agree, that we'll do so in a respectful and a very professional manner. But I would rather be honest with faculty and staff and employees about things that we're facing rather than try to hide things. And so my pledge is to always be as transparent as I possibly can. And the third thing is to be collaborative. And I have said this while I was at Ole Miss for years, and I will say it here. And I think, you know, our actions already sort of prove this, even though it's been a very limited time frame. I'm not really big on being policing, enforcement mentality. That's not the type of space that I want to wake up and go to work in every day. I believe in being collaborative. I use the phrase a lot that I want to be a consultant to departments to help them get where they want to be, and not to be carrying a big stick and beating people over the head with it and showing that, you know, by golly, we're the policy implementers or the police, you know, in that arena is not really the way I want to be. So we will be as collaborative and work together as much as we can. So those are the 2 or 3 things that I pledged when I was interviewing, and I interviewed with some of you in this room here through the, I think I met with the Faculty Senate Executive Committee on my time, and then various members of you may have been in other meetings. So I tend to build my platform on those 2 or 3 things, and hopefully we can accomplish that and work with each of you in any manner that we need to. There is a lot going on in our world right now in HRM. Of course, I've already mentioned, as you know, the COVID, and hopefully that is getting much better day by day. I'm pleased that we're not having, you know, major issues with regards to faculty and staff as far as, you know, the reports indicate today. I mentioned being collaborative and working together, and, you know, one of the first things that we have done, and I hope faculty see this as a positive, but we are working with the Provost office and academic affairs to shift some of the academic policy issues that HRM has managed in the past over to the Provost office. I think that is the right way and the fair way to do that. You don't find that role that often in HRM at colleges and universities. And so again, I'm not about empire building or trying to, you know, hold on to something just for the sake of holding on to it. I think it is a better fit with the Provost office, and, you know, y'all understand each other's language and the different issues that you have. So we will take a little bit of a back seat on some of that. Certainly here to help and support, but not here to necessarily run those types of issues. We have a lot of different things that are coming up with regards to open enrollment and benefits. One of the things that I hope most people will be excited about is we have recently gone through every single voluntary product. We went to an open bid market with those, and you know, it's hard in today's world to get frozen prices on various insurance and health products. And so on all of our voluntary products, and when I say voluntary products, I mean things like dental insurance, vision insurance, life insurance. So we went out to the market on every single one of those. We leaned on companies hard. We kept going back to them and asking them to redo their offers. And so we do have 0 increases in rates on all of those types of products. In fact, we have a couple that are slightly decreased. And the amazing thing to me is we got some 3- and 4-year rate, frozen rate guarantees for dental insurance and vision insurance and a couple other products. So we are very excited about that. One of the things that I did hear a lot very early on, I don't know if any of you got on some of the town hall meetings when we were sort of working more remotely. I spoke on several of those, and the question of mental health came up 2 or 3 times. So we have really looked hard into what can we do to enhance mental health offerings. We recently, in fact, it came out by Stratcom today, we partnered with University Council on Gender Equity and HRM, and we have bought a package from a company called MindWise, and this will be rolling out to campus soon and allows employees free of charge to go and do an assessment, personal assessment, and try to figure out if they do have any types of issues. So that's it ties into mental health. We also, probably in January, we have leaned hard on some of our vendors to create a search engine for mental health so that you can go out and this is very unique. Not many people, in fact, they told us it couldn't be done, and we went back and told them, you'll figure out a way. So we leaned on them pretty hard, but it'll be a search engine so you can go out there and put in various characteristics you would like to see in a mental health provider, such as, your race, gender, different issue, grief, anything that you have a really important need, and then it will match up and find health administrators that have a specialty or believe they have a specialty in that particular thing that interests you. And so you will be able to get a hit on those types of services or the providers that match what you're looking for. Of course, we are very involved in working with a lot of the diversity initiatives of the university. I am co-chair of the staff committee. We have about 20 initiatives that we're working through. And then our office has partnered with the faculty committee. Jane, in fact, Cassidy just spoke as one of the co-chairs of that group. And we're working very hard to try to help and deliver in any way we can and support that group as much as we can. A couple of things that you may see in addition to any open enrollment thing coming out soon. When I got here, it was quickly made known to me that assessment was coming up in a couple of years. And so we're working hard to try to get ourselves cleaned up, our documents and data cleaned up. There could be some instances, I'm just letting you know, where we're missing some faculty transcripts. We're in the process of trying to identify what transcripts are missing, and we've got the number down, fairly low, but those calls will be going out to various people to deliver those. And I know that's frustrating if someone or yourself even is told, we don't have your transcript. I can't help that, but I know that we have to have all this for accreditation in a couple of years. So we're trying to clean that process up. One other thing I was going to mention, or two other things, is some of you may be aware, there's a law for the state of Louisiana. If you make over $100,000, you have to have your license and registration for your cars have to be for within the state of Louisiana, and that's usually, or has been done the last couple of years at the time of employment, but we are about to start an annual process on that. So if your base pay and your base package is over $100,000, you will likely soon get some notices that you have to reaffirm that. That's the law. That's not anything we can necessarily control. So, my apologies if that's an inconvenience, but that's something that you may see that's new, and I didn't want to not inform you about that. And then the last thing I was going to mention before we can start question and answer thing is we did have a pretty significant change that I think directly helps, particularly 9-month faculty back in the spring during the legislative session. And I know it was such a crazy time. I'm not sure if it resonated with a lot of people, but there was a law change that allowed employees to use sick leave if certain family members were sick. And I know in 9-month faculty's cases, you don't even earn annual leave. So that could have been a real difficulty for you. But now, starting immediately, you can actually use leave for medical instances for your children, your spouse, or your parents. So I think that is a very positive change and initiative, and particularly for those that only have and earn and accrue sick leave. So that's kind of, I guess, Mandy, the 2 or 3 things that I believe in promoting, and some things we're working on, and 2 or 3 things that I wanted to let the Senate know that could be coming soon that they might see and think, what in the world is this? So I'm ready for questions.
All right. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for hitting on those topics. I was going to ask you what are the most pressing or interesting or pending issues of the day. Just to be clear, I may not be clear, will the cost of insurance be increasing in general for the same coverage this next year?
We are working on finalizing the health insurance. It does, it is going to go up. We are working our best to get it to be very, very minimal. There's a couple of things left that have to be done in order to finalize the rate. And we wanted to announce that, even as early as today, but we're not really quite prepared to announce the actual rate for the health insurance for the LSU First plan. Now the OGB plans, those are run by the state. LSU doesn't have really anything to do with those. So about 25% of our employees are on the OGB plans. On the LSU campus, it's less than that. That's system-wide. But the OGB plans have already announced their rate increases, and they're about 5.5%.
All right. Yes,
Can I ask a question? So what's the rationale behind raising the rates at this point? Are there costs actually going up that much right now? I mean, certain costs like auto insurance and such are going down, obviously, because people have been driving less. Is it just regular inflation or what?
Well, yes. I mean, the cost of insurance, medical services is actually increasing. I figured this would come up some. So I was looking at, the last few years on some stuff, doing some research for this call. And, the average cost of medical insurance is floating 5 to 6% for the last several years. I looked at some stuff before I got on here today, even in the last couple hours. And most people are projecting that the cost of medical insurance average will be about 6% for next year. We are hoping to have much lesser increase in that, but we're just not at that point. We can, again, for the LSU First plan, the OGB plan is about running about that same average as the nationwide percent, but we're hoping that we can get the LSU First plan less than that due to some cost saving initiatives we have.
I see.
And it's very important to understand. I mean, I hate to start getting on a soapbox here, but you have to understand we run a self-insured insurance plan. So that is completely different than what you just referenced with regards to car insurance and stuff. So these car insurance programs and stuff, when people quit driving in March, April, May, and some are still not driving as much, those are fully insured plans. They didn't have accidents. They didn't have issues and problems, so they didn't have cost. A self-insured plan means we pay exactly what we're charged. We have very, very, very little administrative cost, and there's no one making a profit per se. That's the difference. So your State Farms, your Allstates, all of those, they're making a profit. On a self-insured plan, we just basically, all of us, myself, you, everyone else on this call that's on the LSU First plan, we put money into a pot. We pull money out when our fellow workers have to have medical attention, and we hope that the money going in equals the money going out, and if it doesn't, we have to adjust the premiums a little bit.
Okay, I understand. That's it. Okay, that's a good answer. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, this is Joan. I have a question.
Okay. Hey, Joan.
Hi.
I met Joan on my interview, and so if y'all don't like me, she's one of the ones you can blame.
Okay. Who negotiates the amount that the insurance, this is LSU First, who negotiates the amount that the insurance coverage for medicines pays versus how much we technically pay through our HRA?
So we have a pharmacy benefit management contract, which is what we're trying to get a new one this year. So we negotiate with those pharmacy benefits managers, and we've actually proposed to go to a new style of contract this year that will reduce our administrative costs, where we require the pharmacy benefit manager to exactly pass on their costs to us only, and not to, in our new style contract, to not necessarily make a profit other than their administrative charges. So depending on the company that's selected, they have a formulary based on all of the different contracts they have with pharmacy wholesalers. And their cost is what we have to pay, which is very unique. Pass-through contracts are very unique. In fact, we were told it wouldn't work, and we said, well, we're going to try it. And, you know, we think we're on the verge of having some really significant savings here. But so to answer your question, whichever contract or vendor we sign with, we're signing to accept their cost passed directly to our plan, and then the only thing we pay them is an administrative charge, which is fair for running the program. You know, and also, you know, I guess everyone knows this, but, you know, not everyone can use generic drugs, but, you know, our plan is very unique in that if you use generic drugs, you'll never have to pay a cent for drug cost.
That's only if you've used up all your HRA and deductible.
Yes, once your HRA is charged initially, but what I'm saying is if you stay with generic drugs, you would never be charged for drugs. Now, again, I understand not everybody can always use generic drugs. That's understandable, but that is unique about our plan.
Okay, I think Professor Blanchard has a question. Unmute.
Thank you. Mine is a pretty simple question, I think. Several years ago, I'm a 9-month tenured employee of LSU. It used to be when I got here, we could take our 9 months of salary and stretch it across the summer when we're not paid by LSU. And then all of a sudden, somebody decided that that was not a good idea, and we are not allowed to stretch that 9-month salary across the summer. And I'm wondering, has anybody taken another look at that? Why was that decision made? It's certainly not convenient to those of us who can't teach summer school. So we're basically unemployed for the whole summer.
Yeah, and so Pamela, I'm familiar with those issues with regards to, I've dealt in this arena all my 30 years prior to being here. I'm not at all familiar with the specific reasons why LSU stopped the program, as you say they did. That is, I can certainly look into it best I can. That is a little bit more of a payroll question. I'm not trying to pass the buck. I've answered every question up to this point, but that's a little bit more of a payroll question than necessarily mine and an HRM question. I know that it is it's a difficult to manage issue, because I've dealt in the arena before in conjunction with payroll. You may not love this answer, but I will still give it to you as a way of offering a solution to you. One of the things that I've always told people to at least consider is to go to the credit union and get you an account and have the amount of money you want deducted and put in that credit union account, and then you can go and withdraw it in the summer, and you actually end up getting the interest off that money. And if you have a really, really big emergency that makes you believe you need to go get to it earlier, you can. I know that's not what you want to hear, but that is a great solution that puts you in more control of the money, and also allows you to earn some interest on the money. But in the meantime, I will ask around about the disbandment of that program.
Right, yeah, this is an issue that's come up before, and it is a payroll issue. There are challenges, I think, also related to that with the deductions. which is a weakness or a flaw or a lack of functionality in Workday. But that is a finance question, and so I'll be happy to, I know our chief financial officer is heading north, but we'll certainly reach out to that office and have somebody come chat with us about it. But thank you very much, Mr. Jones, for giving it a good try. I think it is a distinct question, and but thank you for that answer nonetheless. All right.
Andy, I will, in addition to something you just said, I will say that with regards to the deductions issue, I know that that's been a little bit of bone of contention with some too, but this is sort of a partnership with HR and payroll. We are in the process of purchasing a billing system software that will link and overlay with Workday that is going to be very helpful and instrumental, I think, in helping with 9-month faculty deductions for insurance. And you know, that's a difficult arena always.
Right.
Just the way it is. I mean, I don't want to sit here and kill the rest of the time talking about it, but it's more difficult than it sounds.
It is, and we certainly appreciate that. I know that process was started some time ago when faculty did take issue with the rather strange deductions, which weren't intentional, and there was nothing nefarious going on. But sometimes that old cell phone calculator doesn't work terribly well when sorting those things out. So I think an automated system that's obviously integrated into the rest will be a huge benefit. Okay, we have time for one more question, and then we need to move along. Please, I know Professor Orozco, yes, but and then we will move on after that question because we do have a big day. But nonetheless, submit your questions to Ms. Knoll. If you do it in chat, we will collect them and we'll forward them to Mr. Jones. All right, go ahead, Professor.
Thank you. Clay, I appreciate your information. And unfortunately, you have told us that our health insurance is going up. And what you're presenting us with is a pattern that has repeatedly happened year after year the last decade. While that is happening, our paychecks are staying the same or actually becoming smaller, because every time the health insurance cost goes up, our paychecks become smaller. I don't think that you have control over this, but I think from conversation with my faculty, when I report back to my department, that's the first thing that they're going to say. And this is something we have discussed over and over again every time that the issue comes up. So what information could I take to my faculty, or how could you or someone in the meeting direct this matter so that the issue gets discussed and we get some answers? Thanks.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a difficult situation, and I mean, I understand your frustration. You know, if I had to say there was one issue that I think I'm concerned, and hopefully increased enrollment, and I did hear President Lopez's opening speech about the apple and the horse, I believe was the analogy she used, which was a pretty good analogy. But I do think that I'm very hopeful that if we continue to see enrollment the way it's headed and in the future years, that hopefully we can turn the compensation issue around. And so I'm very sensitive to that. I will do everything in my, you know, limited power on that to continue to push for that. In the meantime, you know, we can't control the fact that the medical costs are increasing. We are doing everything we can within our control and power, and we have done some things that we hope will keep next year's rates much lower than the national average, much lower than the state plans are going up. But hopefully we can merge those two soon and have very low health increases and compensation increases as well, so that we can get the thing turned around. But your points, you know, very accurate, dead on, frustrating, I'm sure, to people. But I can't answer it any better than that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for your time. We do have questions rolling in. I think some very timely and important questions, and we will forward those on to you, and we'll get the answers, and we'll definitely share them with the rest of the faculty senate. We do genuinely appreciate your time and certainly your candor with the senate. All right, friends, we do have to move on. Professor McMillan needs some time to discuss our bylaws. But first, as you know, the Faculty Senate Executive Committee, primarily Professor McMillan, has been working on the bylaws, updating, revising, updating and revising really, and expanding them a little bit and sort of separating out the operating procedures from the bylaws themselves. This has not been any small task. This represents many, many hours of work. And first, I need a motion and a second to consider the revised bylaws. So if I can get that, please. Okay. And a second?
Second.
Anyone can raise your hand or yell out. Just let us know who you
Ron
are.
Martinez.
All right, got it. All right, next up, and all those in favor, please vote. Just do your little hand thingy on the group profile. But we will assume that we'll move forward while we collect the votes. All right, Professor McMillan, I yield the floor.
He needs to unmute.
We gotta unmute.
Does he need to call in? Here, I'll send him the.
No, he's not connected. Okay, can you bring up the slide?
Yeah. Just 1 second.
He's muted again.
He says that he doesn't.
He has some trouble.
I see the frustration.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
Can you
go ahead and
call in
share.
on your cell phone, Professor McMillan?
Or you can call me.
Or call Professor Del Piero? Or you can call me for that matter.
Okay.
I can ring you if you'd like.
I sent him the number as well.
For this or for you?
For this, yeah.
Okay.
So if he needs to call in.
Okay, you can call any of us.
Yeah, just give him a minute to join, and then
yeah.
I'll admit him. So, okay. So yeah, the motion's passed then.
Okay, very good. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and go to the first slide. So, while we're waiting on Professor McMillan, we've gone through line by line, and you can see in these slides the major changes. These have also been shared with the senators, with the Senate. This is the first major change. You can see the track changes on the side, and you can see the explanation on, well, I don't know if it's left or right, but anyway, you can see the Constitution changes on one side, and then you can see the explanation on the other. So the primary change in this is that the president's term and other FSCC will be for 1 year, and the other FSC members will remain a year. No officer, I believe this applies to the president and the FSCC, can serve more than 3 consecutive terms. That is a change, and the justification, I will admit I did not engage in this conversation as the sitting president. I thought it wouldn't be appropriate, But the rest, this was the topic of a huge discussion that also, we also reached out to all three, I guess, former presidents. And so we have several generations included in this. So again, this is for the consideration of the Senate. All right. The next major change was the formation of the Fscc Advisory Committee. You can see the new, the constitution of the committee there. The chairs of the Fscc members. I think Dr. McMillan is here.
Yeah, he's on the call.
Okay, are you there? Okay. So I'll move away. Okay, keep going. All right, composition of this committee, and it will be an advisory committee, just as it says. And historical knowledge, and it will meet quarterly and other times as requested by the Fscc. All right. Next. Okay. So these are the changes in the alternate representation. There's been no shortage of discussion about this over the years. I certainly know I've been around for, I don't know, between 8 and 10 years. And this has gone back and forth innumerable times during my time. So what it comes down to is a question of whether or not the Faculty Senate is a public body. Well, the LSU General Counsel has designated the Senate as a public body. Therefore, we cannot have proxy. Now, the distinction between a proxy and an alternate, as I understand it, is that a proxy can vote for another person. An alternate is a physical replacement for another person. And so, as we've indicated, state law prohibits proxy. All right, so I think that's explained fairly well. Okay.
Why
don't you come be there?
You said it.
All right, carrying on. All right. So the operation procedure of the committees were moved. They were not deleted, but they are in the committee operating procedure. This reduces the amount of verbiage in the bylaws, makes it much more accessible, and the operating procedures also allows more detail in the operating procedures. I also believe this increases or makes things a bit more flexible in terms of updating or revising the operating procedures to changing needs and to what is actually being done by the committee. Sometimes the committees change course without changing the bylaws, so bylaws aren't followed very closely. So it's better that we have the bylaws and that we follow our own bylaws. And then we have the operating procedures a little bit separate, well, that are separate, but that can be modified and easily accessed. Slightly easier than the bylaws. Okay, next. All right, so this is perhaps one of the biggest changes. The others are somewhat cosmetic and functional for the most part, or mandated by law, is that the committee on committees has been removed from the bylaws. And the executive committee will take over the appointments. So not all committees, so most committees are composed of elected individuals or appointed, a combination of elected and appointed. Some are only appointed. But the Fscc will take over this responsibility, and this is, so we will serve as the appointing committee, which we usually do anyway, but we will also serve as the nominating committee. Now remember that this committee was somewhat left over from a time when LSU was considerably smaller, and we didn't have as much contributions from the different colleges. I'm happy to say that even in my years on the Senate, we have certainly expanded the people. We've increased participation. I'm very, very glad to see that everyone sees the importance of this and having their voice of their college heard. So this is a major change. It shouldn't result in any changes in the nominations or the nominees. And I want to make it clear that we will be reaching out to faculty and to the Senate for nominations, right? So while we'll be acting as the nominating committee, we're not going to do this separately from the faculty. Okay, all right, up next. All right, another major change. We did, at the behest of our very own senators, create the Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The charges are there, and we will be filling that committee in our upcoming elections. Okay, well, that one's fairly explanatory. Next. Okay, so this is another change that seems major, but is really not, and that is the creation of Faculty Appeals Board. So a faculty committee is mentioned in PS 36, and that is when an appeal to something like a promotion and tenure decision reaches the provost, she does have the option to reach out to an ad hoc committee. Now, as you recall, we did create the Adjudication Committee some years back. By the way, the Adjudication Committee has done an amazing job. They've worked very hard and in fact worked through the summer. And so hats off to them, and they are fulfilling their mission as described in the bylaws. However, the Adjudication Committee is, as the name implies, an adjudication committee. The goal is to identify and correct processes, procedures, actions, understandings, and all that in academic life that can contribute where things go wrong, so to speak. This is not to say that they're deciding on a faculty member's credentials or productivity or anything like that. They're looking at process and procedure, but from the inside out, in a matter of speaking. And following through to make sure that all steps were not only followed as described, but as intended. All right, now the Faculty Appeals Board, on the other hand, is a board that we will form of faculty, and you can see the charges there. And this will be the, I don't want to call it a jury because that gives completely the wrong impression. But this will be a standing board that will be there for the express purpose of those charges described there. So again, this will be distinct from the Adjudication Committee, completely unrelated, and this will be to deliberate and make recommendations on such things as dismissal for cause, non-reappointment, non-tenure, or unsuccessful tenure and promotion, etc. All right, do we have former President, past President McMillan on the line by any chance?
Let's
Okay.
try it. Let's try and see. Can you hear me?
He's there. All right. Well, I hope I did a bang-up job as you're standing. But all right. Well, I'll let you take it from here.
Mandy, you did an outstanding job. I'm not sure I could have done any different or expanded very much. I think since you have the item of business open for discussion, that we should just open the floor for discussion. There's lots of changes, a lot of just wording changes and clarification changes. One aspect that has been brought up in the meantime, and Dr. Tyrone from Political Science from HSS pointed out that we do have one major discrepancy. By allowing the president to be elected for a 2-year term, then there are some discrepancies between having the executive committee being able to be elected when they don't necessarily actually be members. In other words, right now, it's a little ambiguous as to the fact that executive committee members, either officers or the committee members at large, can be elected because of the bylaws, while in the Constitution it says the faculty senate shall elect from its membership. The president in particular vacates the Senate seat which he or she held during the presidency. So then the question comes up, is that seat filled by the executive committee? Is that seat filled by an election process? And what happens to the senator who is elected only for a single, either 1 or 2-year term? Some of that is fairly vague and ambiguous now. So we'll have to probably revisit that because faculty senate executive committee membership does not automatically bestow faculty senate membership. It seems like the two options are to eliminate from its membership so that any faculty member on the faculty council could technically be nominated and elected president, vice president, or secretary. And that may or may not be a bad choice for the Senate to consider, or that the faculty senate could elect from those eligible faculty members, which would include all current senators, president, and sitting members of the faculty senate executive committee. So that's a technicality that you will have to consider as to how broadly we want to interpret some of the technical aspects. I should point out that this is not my constitution and bylaws. This is not Mandy's bylaws and constitution. This is not the executive committee's. This is going to be your bylaws and constitution. And so any and all discussion is welcome because, quite honestly, we're living in a transformative age, and that have been proposed may just flaunt tradition in how the faculty senate was organized. Remember back in 1972? No, none of us can do that because I don't think any of us were around as faculty members at that time. But when the faculty senate was organized, there were significantly less faculty members than there are now. I've heard estimates that there were only 300 or 400 faculty members, which meant that it was more of a democratic aspect. And that's why we needed the Committee on Committees, so that we spread workload among those faculty members that were on campus. And when I first came to LSU in 1980, then the faculty members there told me how much the faculty had expanded in size, and the fact that they used to know everybody on campus because everybody went to the faculty club and everybody ate lunch at the union at that time, and you just knew your peers. Now we're way too many for us to know that. We're way too busy, and now with our Zoom meetings, you don't really get to know people like you should. And so in that regard, that's one of the considerations for eliminating the Committee on Committees. As long as we have a faculty Senate coordinator like Susanna, who is in tune with what goes on in more departments than most of us on the executive committee can think about, that's why we think that that will be a more representation. Mandy's major goals that have been stated at the last meeting, one of was to reinvigorate a lot of the policy committees in the colleges. If those policy committees with what I would call more local government are active, then they will nominate individuals to serve on the various committees, particularly when we have certain colleges vacancies that need to be filled. So it's kind of a collective movement, not just disband this and not think about what that committee's been doing. And in that regard, most all of these changes reflect, as Mandy indicated, a lot of deliberative discussions among the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. I should also give thanks to a couple of our former Faculty Senate Executive Committee members who contacted us and have offered suggestions that we improved. I'm not going to name anybody by name, but you know who you are, and you're on this Zoom meeting, and we appreciate that. We also had two past presidents who I will name, Kevin Cope and Bill Daly. They were consulted on several aspects, and as might be reflected, they didn't always agree on some of the changes that we have proposed. So again, that provided discussion points for the executive committee. So with that, I'm going to quit talking and really open it up for any discussion that you have, knowing that this is the first opening meeting, and that anything that we discuss, we'll propose alternatives between now and the October meeting, so that you all have plenty of opportunities to think about, discuss, point out errors, differences, whatever.
I got a change to propose. Can I send it there?
Ken, can you say again what you were saying about people being elected as officers that may not be a senator anymore?
Yes, there's a discrepancy that was pointed out by Senator Tyrone, who was unable to be at the meeting. I think he's teaching class, but the way that it's worded now, one could interpret that because the president vacates the Senate seat that they held during the year of the presidency, then there's a discrepancy, because we technically allow officers and executive committee members to serve 3 consecutive terms. That then is a contradiction, because if they're not a senator, then they can't serve and be elected. So that in a nutshell would be a conflict.
Serve as what? You mean serve as an officer? Because when I look at election.
Go ahead.
When I look at election of officers under number 2, it says all current senators, the president, and sitting members of the Faculty Senate Executive Committee are eligible to be nominated for Faculty Senate Executive Committee positions. It says Faculty Senate Executive Committee membership does not automatically bestow Faculty Senate membership.
Well, that's correct, Joan. And the contradiction is that in the Constitution, Article 4 under officers, that says the Faculty Senate shall elect from its membership, which would technically mean you have to be a senator in order to be elected as an officer. That's the contradiction.
Do you know what page that is?
Not offhand, I don't. It's Article 4 in the Constitution, so probably page 3 or 4.
Okay, well, I think this counts as, quote, the first reading. And hopefully, everyone will have a chance to go through and identify some of the contradictions, as I've already, well, hopefully there's no more, but should there be, identify them and forward them to the executive committee through Ms. Knoll. We'll certainly be working on this. We'll be committed to refining this so that we can have a vote at our next meeting. After that, we will have elections and fill the committees and start launching the standing committees. I know there was a delay. I apologize for this. I don't like delays. I typically, power through whatever. But it's been a bit tumultuous this year. And so there was sort of put some sticks in the cogs, I guess. But we will move forward. But we felt that the bylaws, having current bylaws, having approved bylaws, was absolutely crucial before we moved on with the elections and so on, for obvious reasons. All right, so are there additional discussions? Discussion? All right. Well, again, this represents no small amount of work by President McMillan, the former President Ms. McMillan, past President, and Ms. Knoll. Please read them. Please share them with your faculty. And please reach out to us. We're sure it's not perfect, despite our best efforts. So we certainly look forward to the feedback. Again, they're not our bylaws. They are your bylaws. They, as representative of the faculty, they are the bylaws of the faculty. So please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, we will take a motion to vote on them next meeting and hopefully enact them or ratify them pending any small changes. All right, if there is nothing further, the hour is nigh. I know that, well, things start happening about this time. I appreciate all of your participation and your fortitude and all that you do for our LSU. Have a great month, stay safe, and don't hesitate to reach out. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? And a second? All right, friends, see you soon.
Bye, everyone.